Okay. All right. Welcome to Digital Icons by Affiliate Nation. We started the show Digital Icons to bring to you the best and brightest leaders of the digital industry. The world's best digital business owners, affiliate marketers, lead generation experts, high ticket sales gurus, coaches, program builders, course creators, and more will all be featured on this show. We really just want to dive into the minds of people who are absolutely crushing it in the digital world and give you kind of a behind the scenes look at what is making them so successful. I'm your host, David Troxel. I'm a seven-figure affiliate marketer that specializes in helping entry-level entrepreneurs leverage systems and automations to start an online business. And I'm also a small business lead generation expert that runs a consulting company in that space. Today, I have with me Russ Ward. Russ is an entrepreneur in the digital lead generation space and the owner of Premium Performance Marketing LLC. He's also known as the Lead King. He's generated over 45,000 leads in the real estate, mortgage, solar, personal injury, and life insurance niches. And Russ has a really inspirational story of redemption and is passionate about helping others make massive comebacks. Just briefly, after a series of terrible life choices, Russ ended up divorced, his house in foreclosure, $119,000 tax lien. He was actually sued by the NFL for over $10 million and ultimately had a gun to his head. With the help of therapy and a complete mindset shift, he was able to pull himself up from the floor, and he started a digital marketing business that hit $10,000 within 62 days. And so from these humble beginnings, he now runs a highly successful digital lead generation business and has a thriving coaching business helping entrepreneurs both get started and take things to the next level. So I'm really excited for this interview. Thanks for joining us, Russ. So be sure to just tune in and stick with us all the way through here because this interview is going to be really jam-packed with value. So again, welcome. I'm glad to have you on. And, we'll just kind of get started with just, learning a little bit more about you, learning a little bit more about your background, life prior to being the lead king, if you will. So give us a little bit of background there and tell us, some of the story about, what got you started.
Yeah. So thanks so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Mostly what I want to do anytime I'm on a podcast or an interview is I just want to get this story out because I want people to know that no matter what your situation is, you can always change it. You can always make a comeback. I got out of the Navy. I had an Intel job, so I couldn't really get a job doing anything that was Intel related in my hometown of Pittsburgh. We just, the FBI was there, but it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I ended up getting into sales jobs, and finally I started bootlegging DVDs, right? And I tried a whole bunch of different things. So I was bootlegging a bunch of different TV shows that weren't released on DVD, and then I got the bright idea to start copying NFL games and making a website called SuperBowlsOnDVD.com. And I got really successful with that. I was doing $15,000 to $20,000 a month in e-commerce sales by selling Super Bowl DVDs. And that was going really well for like 2 years. And then all of a sudden I got a letter from the NFL that said I was being sued for $10 million for a breach of their copyright. So it's a long story how I got out of that. But to make it short, and I'm not going to name names, one of the NFL owners had been buying DVDs from me for his own team because the NFL wouldn't let him make his own stuff. So that owner was one of my biggest customers. And the way I got out of the $10 million lawsuit was I sent them a check from this owner that he had sent to me and said, look, he told me it was okay. And they ended up dropping the lawsuit as long as I didn't reveal who it was. So long story short, it scared the hell out of me. And I didn't want to, do bootlegging anymore, but I kept it up. I kept doing other ways that were not NFL related. And it was just an on and off cycle. And my merchant accounts would get shut down. I'd have the FBI take over a website. I mean, it was a really scary life when I first got into the digital marketing space. So long story short, and fast forward, I eventually stopped doing that because I just had burned all my bridges. I was out of money. I didn't have any more merchant accounts. I couldn't process any cash. And I just started scraping by doing as many, odd jobs. I'd do labor jobs. I'd do sales jobs. I'd do whatever I could. And finally, one day I just got to the point where this life sucks, man. This just absolutely sucks. I had got divorced. I had, I couldn't pay my bills. My house was in foreclosure. I was just grouchy and angry. My kids were hating me. And I just got to the point where I was like, I'd rather just die than do this. And I was literally laying on the floor. I had a gun to my head probably 2 weeks where I just contemplated, should I do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? And the only thing that really kept me from pulling that trigger, man, was thinking about what it would look like to my kids if they found their dad's head splattered against the wall. And I thought it would traumatize them for life, and they'd be messed up, and they would maybe end up with the same results as me. And I didn't want that. So I figured I'd try, hey, I'm going to try one last thing. I'm going to Hail Mary this thing. And I got up off the floor. I did a Google search for reasons to want to live. I started looking into some mindset things. And I got into all kinds, when you get on YouTube, man, you get down these rabbit holes. I found things about, flat earth. I found things about aliens. I was watching everything. I didn't care what it was if it helped me. And what really started to help me was I found law of attraction. I found meditation. I found Joel Osteen. And I know a lot of people bash Joel Osteen for his prosperity gospel, but I'll tell you what, the guy has an uplifting message, and he really helped me out. And I got back into church. I started, giving thanks for the things that I did have, which was I had health, I had healthy kids. And, I just started getting into a positive mindset because I figured, hey, if I'm going to be alive anyway, I gotta find a way to not suffer. And so that was really the long story short of how I kind of trashed my life and how I kind of got up off the floor and started a little bit of a rebound. I just was like, I'm not going to do it. So what am I going to do? I can't just lay here forever. So I just got up and I just started looking for reasons to live.
Yeah, man, that's really good. That's powerful. So you started this website, and that was kind of your first foray into the digital world with your bootleg DVDs. So what was your primary method of marketing that? I'm just curious, like kind of going from the digital marketing perspective, what were you doing back then? Because I'm trying to tie this into, your transition to what you're doing now. So like, how did you start digitally with that?
Yeah. So first I was just selling them on eBay, and then,
okay.
I was selling them on eBay because I didn't know anything about digital marketing. I just knew there was eBay. That's where I bought my first bootleg DVD. And I was like, well, what if I bought them all? And then I made a website where I could sell them all in like team sets and stuff. And then I started just taking it big, and I just worked constantly selling these on eBay. And then eBay finally banned me for copyright. So I found this other auction site called iOffer, which was way smaller than eBay, but I was still making money. And then I figured out, wow, I could go to Google. And so I started doing Google, and Google banned about 9 different accounts. And finally, that was really the nail in the coffin, because Google was my primary way of generating business. So I ended up with Bing. And so at the very end of this thing, I was advertising on Bing exclusively, selling one TV show, the Carol Burnett show from like the early 80s. And basically my target market and clientele was like, 60-plus-year-old women who wanted to watch reruns of the Carol Burnett show. And that was about all I was selling toward the end. And so that's how I got into it, man. And, I didn't know how to make websites. So I was like getting ripped off by freelancers charging me, and it came one point where there was actually other people in the bootleg DVD space who were very competitive. And so at one point they were DDoS attacking my websites, and I had to pay like a $1,500 a month bounty to one guy to stop DDoS attacking me. And that was my biggest monthly expense. I was like, hey, if you stop this and let me make an income, I'll pay you $1,500 a month just to not attack me anymore. And he took that. And so, it was a wild ride, man. And it was just cutthroat as could be.
That's crazy. It shows the other side of the internet, man. It's a wild world out there for sure. Yeah. For sure. So, coming back, through your comeback story, you came through and you decided you were going to start in the lead generation space. So what prompted that? I mean, from what you were doing, it wasn't really connected to lead gen. I mean, you were kind of selling stuff online. That was more, I guess, e-commerce, if you will. Where did that transition come in? You were kind of at rock bottom, and you said, I'm gonna do something different. You really came out of that bottom place. And how did you get into lead gen?
So yeah, it's a cool story. So I got into to some Facebook groups of some salespeople and just different people. I was in a space where I wanted to increase my mindset, make it better. Mm-hmm. I met a guy who was a real estate investor, and he said, hey, listen, if you get your real estate license, you can be my guy in Pittsburgh that buys all my houses and just get the commission for me. So that relationship didn't work out. It ended up the guy was sending me screenshots of a bank account that didn't have any money, but I did get a real estate license, and I did put about 14 properties under contract for him. And then I started to get a bad reputation because I had to pull out of all of them because the guy didn't have any money. But The cool thing was I had a real estate license. So I went out and I tried to find somebody to bring in leads for me. And I found a guy who was selling a little course and he'd set it up for you. And I borrowed like $300 off somebody to buy this guy's little course. And I was like, dude, this is so simple. I could do this so easy. So it worked for me. And then I started doing it for other people. And I was charging people, you won't believe this, I was charging people $100 to set up their Facebook ads for them. And if they liked it, they had to let me screenshot the results and give me a little testimonial review. And so for the first 2 months I was doing this, the first 62 days, I made my $10,000, but I had like so many clients because I was only charging $100 and some of them would give me a tip. And I was working nonstop and I had this piece of crap computer that it was super slow. And life sucked, man. It was hard, but at least I was making money, and that's all that really mattered. And so I was literally working for $100 in a testimonial for the first 2 months I was doing this. And that's how I got into it, because I found somebody else's course and I was like, this stuff is so easy. This is way easier than the stuff I was doing selling bootleg DVDs. I could do this. And once I realized I could do that, then I just started to take off with it. I started to innovate. I started to integrate chat bots. I started to, do a little marketing for myself, and things just really kind of took off.
Okay. So when would you say, what was your kind of like big aha moment, like kind of your big breakout moment to, you were starting small, like, did you have like what you would call kind of like your big proverbial like home run client, or something that really like started to spark things to go really big, or was it kind of a gradual progression?
Well, there kind of was. So it was kind of gradual. I had the advantage that I was a real estate agent. Technically, I had a real estate license. So that got me into a lot of real estate groups. And so what I started to do was I started to answer a lot of questions. And I learned really quickly that you don't pitch your services because you come across as spammy. So I just helped a lot of people for free, and a lot of people would message me. And then what I'd start to do is if somebody asked a question, they'd say, well, how do you do this? I'd say, well, you do it this way. And if you do it right, you could get results like this. And I'd just post a little screenshot of some of my results. And then people would just load me up with messages and say, hey, I want results like that too. But where this thing really blew up was one day, I remembered from in the past, I had done something in the past where I was going to call myself the Lead Kings. It was, I was always interested in digital marketing. I just didn't know how to do it. And I had a previous girlfriend after a divorce, and long story short, we made this little LLC called the Lead Kings with an S. And then we broke up and she stole the business and all the money. And it was like the last $1,000 I had. So I went back, and I didn't want to spend money on a new logo. So I just went back and took that old logo, took the S off, and called myself the Lead King. And it was kind of like a middle finger to her. And it was also, it sounded pretty cool. So when I branded myself as the Lead King, it just started to take off. People were like, ooh, that sounds pretty cool. And then I realized, if I was Russ Ward, freelance marketer, if I was the Lead King, Russ Ward, people would actually give me the time of day if I said I was the Lead King, Russ Ward. I wasn't no damn Lead King. I was as new as it got. But people were just giving me an opportunity because it sounded like I knew what I was talking about, and I did a little bit. So I would like to express to everybody that branding is so important, man. Like, I went to Upwork the other day, for instance, and I needed somebody to do something for me. And the guy goes, bro, you don't need me. I took your course to learn what I'm selling on Upwork. And I had no idea who this was. And he was like, I can't believe the Lead King is asking me for freelance work. And that's how this expands, though. I meet people all the time that know me as the Lead King, and I've never even met them before. And I don't even know how they know me.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It goes to show, I mean, I've interviewed several people that are all like, a lot of people in this series so far that have said the one thing that you said prior to this that's really, I think, key, that I always like to hone in on, is that you served a lot of people for free in the very beginning, or for very, very cheap, right? You got your name established, and you like just tried to provide value. And I think that that's something that often gets overlooked, because so many people are, and I think it's perpetuated by the industry, where it's like we are in an industry of like get rich quick people, like mentality, like just sign up for my course, you're going to make all this money, like you're going to do this, and then it's just like it's easy fast money. And so, but then when I dial into a lot of people that actually are making really good money, a lot of times I hear the same thing over and over. Like, I just try to learn the skills and I help people along the way, and it eventually all came together. I was talking to a guy the other day who now builds like really, really solid funnels, has done like over $10 million. And he literally for like a whole year didn't charge anybody, just like helped people. So that's really good. I like when I'm interviewing people to find those patterns of like successful patterns of people have. So that's really cool that you were kind of in that same journey where you just kind of just decided to help people. And do you feel like that really eventually, like, you helped these people for free and it came back in terms of them eventually wanting to become your client down the road? I mean, how has that evolved to your business today? I mean, are some of those people like big clients of yours now that you helped in the beginning?
Yeah, so a couple of things on that. First, there's a lot of people out there that jump into this industry as a newbie, and they're like, "I just want my $2,500 a month retainer," and they learn this from these gurus that sell these really big courses, and that's the dream that they're spinning to them. And while I'm sure that can happen sometimes, it doesn't usually happen. If you're just Russ Ward freelance guy, no one's going to drop 2,500 a month on me if I have no results and I'm just trying to hit you up to work for you. So you have to be realistic about that. You have to start humbly. You have to sometimes work for free or just a little bit, because getting those testimonials and those reviews were huge for me, because then I could go to the next person and say, "Hey, look, I have 10 testimonials, I can charge a little bit more." So another thing that I did was I absolutely did work for free sometimes if I could spend their money, and then I could use their money to get results, and I could use screenshots. And to answer your question, yes, I still have about 3 clients that I originally started with like 3 years ago. I worked for free. Now, here's another key. People that never paid me to begin with never ended up paying me. So I don't know how other people feel about that. My thing is, you got to get them to pay you something so they get used to it. Even if it's $50, even if it's $100, get them to pay you, because once they get used to free, they're not going to pay. And so with these people, what they do is they refer me a lot of people. There's a girl in Texas. I set her up for free like 3 years ago. She's still closing 3 or 4 real estate deals a month from what I did for her. And she probably sends me 2 to 4 appointments a month with people that I close almost all of them just because they become so highly recommended. There's a mortgage broker not too far from me in Sarasota, Florida, and she sings my praises everywhere she goes. She's a lady that's been in the business for a long time. Anybody that says, "Hey, I need help with marketing," she just gives them my number and they call me directly because she's old school like that. So yeah, absolutely. Those things that you do in the beginning, those relationships that you form, the goodwill that you create because you're being helpful and you're not being like, just greedy all the time. That really does come back to help you. And in the beginning, I understand, man, you need money. Most people that get in digital marketing didn't wake up and say, "Hey, I'd love to be a digital marketer." We were all screwed.
Yeah, it's like out of necessity.
Yeah, the common theme of every successful digital marketer I met was they were all screwed in some way. And this just came out of necessity. And we had to have humble beginnings to really build success. And so now, even if the worst case scenario hit for me and I lost everything, I have such a network of clients and friends and other marketers that I could build this all back up and probably double it within 6 months, just because of the experience and the goodwill that I've built up. And that's so important to do. You can't get into this thing and get a bad reputation, or you're just done,
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of drill into lead generation here for a little bit, because we'll definitely have people that are going to be watching this that are either in the space or looking to get into the space. So, obviously you already mentioned one thing, which is trying to get in and not building your reputation and trying to charge too much in the very beginning when you don't have the results or the success. So what are some other common pitfalls that you see people make in the lead generation space, or even the digital marketing space in general? Like, new people coming in, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make either in lead gen or in in digital marketing in general?
Yeah. So one of the biggest I see, and I see this in groups all the time, is somebody will do the right thing. They'll go out, they'll make a sale. Great, I got a client. And they'll make a sale for a client. They have no idea how to service them. And then they'll go to a group. They'll say, "Hey, I just got a client in this niche. How do I get the results?" Right. And my first thing is, number one, bro, well, good job in getting that client, but you should not be selling something you can't produce. And if you are going to do that, you better have a white label partner, and you better expect to not make much, because the first few deals you do should be for data, for getting results and things like that. But I see this all the time, that people are selling things and taking money from people when they have no idea whatsoever how to get results. And fortunately, I never did that, but I have seen some of the students that came to me that I've worked with one-on-one, and they wondered, why is my reputation jacked up? And it's because, man, you made promises and didn't come through, and we need to fix that by you coming through.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a common thing. Like, I've found that even in my own like lead generation services and clients that I've had, that sometimes that's like an objection that I have to overcome, is that they've hired that guy. You know what I mean? They've hired that person that didn't know what they were doing, because they sold them a package for a couple $1,000 and, got them some Facebook likes or something stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, so that's a common objection. So yeah, that's a really good point. I think it comes down to like finding the right mentors and right people to follow, like, even yourself, myself, whoever that are in that space, that are really good at what they do, because there's a lot of programs and courses out there that are just so surface level that, they know just enough to get themselves in trouble, basically. They haven't really learned. So yeah, that's a really good point. So, and, other than referrals, because I know obviously once you're established in this space, in the lead gen space, that seems to be kind of a repetitive thing. Your name gets out there, you start getting referrals. But for somebody that's new, or maybe, has a couple of clients, what have you found has been the most effective way for client acquisition? What has worked really well for you?
So yeah, that's a good question, because my growth was really stifled for a long time because I didn't have much money to run ads or anything or do client acquisition. I mean, I was making money, but as you know, revenue doesn't equate to profits all the time.
Sure.
And I had a lot of bills, man. I had kids, I had all kinds of things I had to pay. So I was making 10 grand, but I was spending 10 grand.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I was doing client acquisition, what I would do is I would just fill up my Facebook feed with my target demographic. And I started out with real estate. I had the real estate license, and I would just friend request as many real estate agents as I could. And then I would post something on Facebook that was really cool. And it was usually something I would either give away for free or charge a really small amount of money for. So one of the tactics I used was I had about 1,000 real estate friends at one point. And I made this simple little chat bot that was like, we could just connect it to their business page, and it would just answer people's questions, very basic questions. If, somebody came to their page, the true value of that was probably close to nothing, because most people don't go to your page and interact with your chat bot. But I said, hey, all my real estate friends who would like one of these for free. So I had 100 comments, and then I would just reach out to them, give it to them, and just start to interact with them and say, hey, would you jump on a call, see what I can do for you? And I made so much business off of doing that. Now, granted, it's very time intensive. You can't really scale it unless you have like multiple profiles and, VAs posting, but it was enough to get me some money into the hopper. So then I could start doing some paid things, right? I could hire a VA who would do some cold outreach for me. I could run some ads. And by the way, I recommend if you're just getting started, do not ever run ads to do client acquisition, because booked calls are going to be expensive. They're going to be very expensive. You're going to blow through your budget. If you don't know how to close those calls once you book them, you're not going to get a return on investment. So I think a lot of people may disagree with me, but I think until you know how to close deals, you should not be running paid ads, because you're just going to blow through your budget if you can't close those deals once you do get them on the phone.
Yeah, that's a common thing. I actually spoke to a gentleman who is in the coaching space, and he does the same thing. He, like, in terms of what you did in the beginning, he has done a lot of business just organically through Facebook. And I think a lot of people don't use that to their full advantage, to really like set your profile up to represent who you are, clean it up, make sure it looks really good. And then you can, easily through Facebook groups and all sorts of stuff, connect with your ideal clientele. And again, there's that recurring theme, like you offered something of value for free to those people to kind of, make that initial connection. So yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So as you've scaled, how would you say your business and your techniques and the things that you do have changed since, having a handful of clients to scale? I don't know how many clients you have now, but how has your structure and how you do things evolved as time has went on and your company has grown?
So the main thing has been automating things, because everything I used to do in the past was all straight up by hand. I do spreadsheets and all that stuff. So everything is automated. I have a calendar that's automated that sends a reminder sequence. I have an onboarding sequence. It's all automated. So automation has literally changed everything. One of my big holdbacks on growth was that I never wanted to give up any control of anything, because I was always afraid that somebody would mess it up and cost me money. So I have a decent brand name. I have a decent following. However, I'm not in the revenue places where I really should be. And the truth is because I haven't grown a team as quickly as I should have. And I recently just started doing that, and I started giving away some control. And, I have some sales guys now, and I have some VAs that are doing things for me. And I just go in it now with the expectation that mistakes are going to be made. It is going to cost me some money, but during the growth phase, you have to get these things up and running, or else you're never going to grow. So, I have to give a good shout out. I recently just got married, just over a month ago. And
congrats.
Yeah. And my wife, she's just been amazing. She comes from a corporate background where she builds teams and motivates people. She's a senior VP of a bank, and on her way up the ladder, she's been a team builder and somebody who like builds out bubbles on whiteboards and stuff. Exactly what I should have been doing. And she's like, dude, you're awesome at what you do. People that talk to you love you. I hear the phone calls you're having. Why aren't you making $1 million a year yet? And I kind of explained to her. And so she literally started pushing me. She's like, you got to do these uncomfortable things. And, even in just the short month that we've been married, I've actually hired 3 more people. I've scaled my business, by like, I think 8 more clients. And the reason I don't even have that exact number is because now I have sales guys closing these deals and relationship managers following up. So that's how it's changed for me. And I was, a lot of people are going to be afraid of this as they grow. It's to me, it was terrifying, because if I let the control out of my hands, I didn't know what was going to happen. I could lose money. And my biggest fear was I'll lose money and I'll go out of business, because a couple of times I got really low in cash, man. And in business, if you're low on cash, then you got to go back to cold calling and you got to start over. And I was terrified of that. So, what really, really has helped me is trusting other people to do things that I pay them to do, and you have to go in with the expectation that they're not going to do it the way you do it. And you are going to have some mistakes, and it is going to cost you some money sometimes, but long-term, it is going to help you grow.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. There's always those headaches in terms of scaling your business and all that, and that's another thing that I hear often is that, finding the right systems, the right automation is the difference between, kind of being self-employed and running a company. And there's a lot more that can come with running a company, that you just simply can't do when you're just self-employed. There's only so many things and so many hours in the day, really, right, that you're going to be able to do certain things. So yeah, having those right systems is obviously really key. So in terms of marketing right now, with what you do, what platforms do you primarily focus with in terms of generating leads? I mean, obviously there's the main ones, but what sort of areas do you generate leads at?
So I actually got burned out on real estate, and I worked with real estate agents for a long time, and I got, anybody in the real estate space will agree with me. A lot of them can kind of act like divas. A lot of them have not such good work ethics. They don't like to follow up their leads, and they were just driving me nuts because I cared about their businesses more than a lot of them. So for Christmas one year, last year actually, I actually took a bunch of money and I fired all my real estate clients. I just bought them out. And wow. I started over in a brand new niche. And the new niche that I'm in is personal injury attorneys. And I hired a coach to teach me this niche, because this coach is actually doing this at a very high level. He has over 100 personal injury clients. And the method that we're using is live transfer. So our offer is different. We're not selling leads anymore. We're selling live transfers right to you. They're pre-qualified. And what I noticed is that, as you go along in this, and I'm sure you'll agree, you have to innovate and you have to have a different offer, because if your offer is just like everybody else, your offer is just like everybody else. So now my offer is I can go to personal injury attorneys and say, listen, I'm going to pre-qualify the whole thing. I'm only going to walk your ideal customer right through your door. And it's a very unique offer. Yeah, I charge a lot more than lead generators do for it, but I can justify that value now because they don't have to do anything other than close the deal. And so I can actually be pretty direct with them and say, listen, if you have any belief in your abilities to close deals, you should take this offer. If you don't believe in your ability to close deals, then obviously you shouldn't do this. And that kind of hits at their ego a little bit.
They shouldn't even be in the business if they can't close a deal.
Exactly. And I was forced to move everything off the Facebook platform because I had 2 Facebook ads accounts and both of my business managers were banned. And everyone's going through this right now.
Yeah, it's a big one. Yep.
Well, I started freaking out just like everybody did. And I moved everything to YouTube ads. And YouTube ads has been absolutely crushing it for me. Now, I will tell you this, YouTube has a steep learning curve, man. Even the basic out of the box setup of YouTube ads, they have it geared so you lose money. And if you do not change those standard settings, you will lose money. I spent over $15,000 since the end of December on coaches, on courses, and on basically just ad spend to learn YouTube ads. And I'm not bragging. I'm not saying, oh, I'm so rich. No, I wish I didn't spend that money. But that was the learning curve it took to learn YouTube ads. Now I can do it, very successfully, and I have it dialed in for personal injury attorneys.
So okay, I see. So you're basically you're targeting people that are searching for these things, that are searching for those, and you're hitting them with ads. Is that about the method that you're using?
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
And YouTube ads, by the way, I'd like to throw it out there, man, is the targeting options on there are so much more detailed than Facebook ads. Like you can, if you're in the mortgage space, you can find people in market looking for a refinance mortgage. You can just target them. You can target people who use certain apps. You can target people who are using the Zillow app and just run ads to them. And there you go. You don't even have to do targeting. Just target people that use that app. I mean, it's insane. Once you crack the code on YouTube ads, you can just take it to the moon, and you never have to worry about Facebook again.
Yeah, I think everybody will be very happy when they no longer have to even use Facebook for their ads, because it's it's crazy. I know so many people that are having so many issues, especially in the affiliate marketing space. It's just it's a wild ride for them right now. So what other industries are you familiar with, like that you would say are really hot right now? I mean, you're focusing on personal injury. What other industries, niches in this kind of, like, I know we're kind of coming out of the COVID time, but what have you seen that's been working really well besides that?
So solar is really hot right now. It has been hot for a while, but what I'm finding is it's really easy to acquire solar clients, because these guys, they make so much money on a closed deal that they're willing to just literally throw money at marketing if you have any credibility whatsoever. And solar's not too hard to crack. Depending on if you're going to do Southern California, it's going to be tough. Here in Florida, sometimes there's a bit of competition. So I recommend, if people want to get into a hot niche, solar is one of. This one might surprise some people. Final expense life insurance. Final expense life insurance is a certain kind of life insurance that is usually for people who haven't planned very well. They're in their 50s to their 80s. They have nothing for burial expenses. And so they have agents to go out and sell them a little policy, anywhere from $10,000 to like $20,000. And they make instant money. They usually get paid within 3 days, and they make really good money when they sell a deal. The only reason I found out about this is because I have a friend who's a big broker for this, and he asked me if I could give it a shot. And so he was like, yeah, I'll throw you some money every time I close a deal. And I noticed in my Zelle account, like she was sending me money every day. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, I'm closing all these deals from the leads that you set up for me. And I didn't know anything at all about final expense life insurance until he started telling me like why it was so hot right now. And so that's a niche that I think there's a lot of opportunity in, because there's a lot of these agents out there, because it's a very low barrier to entry for the financial planning space for sales reps to get into it. So that's one you might want to think about.
Yeah, that's good. So in terms of, I always like to ask people this question, just in terms of like your just business and like how this has changed for you. So what would you say has been your biggest challenge in your business after finding your initial success? Because obviously we talk a lot of times about the up and coming part of it, the challenges that you went through trying to get your business going, and every entrepreneur has those. But what was your biggest challenge, like after you were already doing well? What have you found to be the hardest part?
Yeah, so I can tell you, 2 summers ago, I hit a really rocky patch. I had contracts expiring on clients, and I hadn't picked up any more, and I literally was at nothing, right? So I already had the success. Thank God I had some money in the bank, but it was getting low, and I was down to for a relatively low amount of money in my bank account, and I didn't know what to do. My mindset was in a bad place, and you probably can understand this, and most people listening, like once you start getting into a position where you're starting to feel a little bit desperate, your mind starts going crazy. You start thinking, am I ever going to make a sale again? Am I ever going to get a client? And that was really what my biggest downfall was so far. Was I went into this rut where I basically lost all my clients, and I didn't know if I'd ever get another one. So what did I do? And I highly advocate this, man. And I'm not ringing my own bell here, but hire somebody to help you. Even if you have to, pay. I'll be honest with you, I had $5,000 left. I took 2 of my $5,000 and I paid it to a coach. And that coach, and I said, listen, man, this is a Hail Mary. If you can't help me with this, I'm probably going to go out of business. And I listened to every single thing he said. And I had success again. And that was it. And it dug me out of a hole, and I went and I got some clients, and I started right back up again. And really all the things that the coach taught me, and quite honestly, most coaches will teach you, is things that you'll probably find somebody somewhere else. The coach simply held me accountable, and he reminded me that I paid him the $2,000 very often. He goes, if you quit, I'm just taking your $2,000. I'm not giving it back. I mean, I asked this guy specifically to hold me accountable and to be savage on me because I needed that structure at the time because I was in a bad place. So it was very challenging when I got to a point where the success like stopped, right? Because I was on this roll, and then all of a sudden these contracts expired. It was like a perfect storm of everything bad hit at once, and that happens to us sometimes. I didn't know what to do at that point because I hadn't faced the challenge of things not working, and so that's what I did. So I'm not trying to say hire me to be a coach or you to be a coach, but I am saying that it has worked for me on several occasions now where when I've lost my momentum and I've taken some money that I had that I couldn't really afford, I hired a coach and it helped me get right back on track. But it has to be the right coach. It can't just be any random dude,
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. My next question I wanted to ask was how do you think that mindset matters? But obviously that you kind of already answered that. And so, I think that is a good thing to bring up because I feel that there's so many entrepreneurs that, at least in the digital space, I've seen this a lot where people they come into the space and they whatever industry they're in, they didn't really build a solid foundation of what they were doing, and they just hit quick money somehow, right? They maybe, like, let's say, like, even lead gen, let's just use that as an example. They didn't really have a solid foundation, but they somehow wound up with 4 or 5 clients and they're doing really well. They're making a lot of money. This could be like high-end clients, but then like you said, it goes away. And so I've seen people like in the affiliate marketing space where they just hit a big win where they make hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single year, and then it just stops, right? And so, like, I'm an advocate of, like, whatever you're going into, to take the time and really learn and master the skill set of the industry that you're going into. And so I think that's a kind of a good transition. So tell me a little bit about like what you do in terms of coaching people in this space, and like what do you do to help people really build a solid foundation if they're wanting to get into this industry?
So what I do is I teach them exactly what I did. And a lot of people don't like it, and a lot of people don't want to work with me because I tell them they have to start humbly. They have to start out basically working for free for getting testimonials and reviews and getting screenshots of results. And the reason I teach it that way is because it's the only way I know how to do it, is because it's work for me. And so I tell everybody that asks me, hey, do you have a coaching program? I say, yes, I do, if you're going to follow the program, right?
Sure.
And and most of these guys, they want like some, give me an ad to run that'll bring in clients. And I'm like, I can't do that. No one knows who the hell you are, and nobody cares who you are until you get results. And so that's what I do. I honestly, man, I just duplicate my process. And I say, this is exactly what I did. If you follow exactly what I did, you will have the same exact results, because I've had multiple people do it. And I'll be honest with you, 75% of the people that I work with, they quit because I don't give them the results they want in 2 weeks. And I'm fine with that. And I tell them up front, 75% of you will quit because they want this get rich quick scheme. And I do not promote that. And look, I made 10 grand in 62 days. And that was only one reason. It wasn't get rich quick. It's because I was hustling. I worked for every last penny of that. And I worked very hard for that money. And I tell them, probably you won't have the work ethic I did because you're not probably as desperate as I was. When your back's up against the wall and you're either going to kill yourself or make money, I'm going to make money.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I worked with this kid. I'm old enough to be his dad. He came to me and he told me he wanted to make money at this. And sometimes I'll take people on, I'll just answer their questions. And all of a sudden I end up mentoring them for free by accident, just because I take a liking to them. Well, this kid, he ended up getting, just like you said, he made a bunch of money really fast. He ended up with 50 grand in his bank account just by following the things I told him to do. He called me one day and he says, hey, I have all this money in my bank account, more than my dad ever made in a year. How do I tell him that so he doesn't think I'm a drug dealer? He was still living at home, right? And I was so proud of this kid, man. He was killing it. He was making ads, and he's a goofy looking dude too, man. Like if this goofy looking kid can do it, I mean, he was just young and goofy. He had a goofy haircut. I was just like, anybody can do this. But what happened with him was he lost a business manager. He lied to all of his clients and told them, yeah, everything's going well, when they were getting no leads, and they were still, he took money from these people for multiple months while he wasn't producing anything. He ended up getting chargebacks like crazy. He ended up losing all of his clients, and he ended up getting a bad reputation. And one of those clients was somebody that I referred to him that I couldn't help at the time because I was too busy. And he basically screwed over one of my clients, which kind of ended our relationship together. So, just to kind of go back to what you said is, people will do that type of thing, man. They'll be so stupid with it. And I've been extremely careful with my reputation. even if we have a bad falling out, even if, I have to fire a client or they fire me, I've always landed on good terms with them. You can do, and one of my most prideful things is you can Google search me. You can put my name, you can put scammer, you can put anything. And with most marketers, something's going to come up. You will find nothing with me because I believe in the marketing realm, especially your reputation is all you got. Once you screw it up,
Yeah.
that's it. You're out of business,
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah, I think that people, when they taste that first bit of money, it's like they can cling to it a little bit hard, a little too hard, and it's like, if you're not willing to do the right things by people, it definitely can come back to bite you in the long run. And you'll lose every time. Like you said, I mean, it's definitely about playing the longer game and doing the right things, even if that means giving somebody a refund, even though you've worked on it or whatever. I mean, it always comes back to win in the long run. So this is kind of an open-ended question. Just shoot from the hip with it. In the digital business world overall, whether it's lead gen or not, what would you say is the difference between good and great?
Wow, that's a pretty good question. Difference between good and great. I honestly think a few things. Probably commitment to personal development. If I would have just stuck with real estate lead generation and that little bit of information I learned at first, I wouldn't be where I am today. I think a huge part of this, man, and I didn't believe it at first because I was like a lone wolf, but is relationships. As you build relationships with your peers and your clients, like I said, I have a network of so many people that are some of them I've never even met in person, but I consider them good, close friends,
Yeah.
If you ever have a problem, I mean, even if you just have to talk through a mindset thing, like I know that I'm never going to slip through the cracks. I know that if the proverbial shit hit the fan, I would be okay because somebody out there would catch me and help me back up, So I really believe those two things. Plus, I mean, absolutely work ethic. If you don't put the work ethic in, like I go into this mode and I still do it. When I'm creating something new or I'm working something, I call myself hoodie Russ and I put this hood up on my head and I lock myself in my little part of the house. And my wife is still getting used to this because we're newlyweds. And I tell her, look, sometimes I go into hoodie Russ mode. And I said, I just work until a problem solved. I don't care if it takes me 18, 20 hours. I don't eat. I don't drink. I just sit there and I work until it's solved. And, you don't got to be as extreme as me, but you do have to have a sick work ethic, at least at the beginning, to make this work,
Yeah. I think I combined like it's a work ethic with also the ability to like hyper focus. I mean, if you're talking about busting out 18-hour days of, fixing a problem, it's like, you got to be able to focus on that. And that's a skill set in and of itself. You know what I mean? So it sounds like that's something you've developed for sure, like without, even necessarily thinking about it. Cause that's something that people in today's world, especially with everything, I mean, we're scatterbrained, we're all over the place. Like we're, looking at our phones, we're, doing all that stuff. So being able to just focus and hone in on something is really, really cool. Yeah. And so I wanted to touch on this one. I think it's an important one, just kind of coming from where you came from and part of your story. I think that for anybody listening to this, I wanted to address this. So if somebody is listening right now and they're listening to this episode and they feel like they're at the end of their rope, they've got a gun to their head, they're at the end, and they don't know what to do, what would you say to them and what advice would you give them? Because I want to address that because I know that there's people in that situation. You know what I mean? So I think that since that's a part of your story, I think it's a good thing to address.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say to you, and I know when you're in that situation, you don't believe this, is there is somebody that cares. Okay. After the fact, I met a lot of people that said, dude, if you would have reached out to me, I would have been there for you. Right now, we can debate all day long if that's true or not, but there are people in your life that care. Okay. I'm going to throw this out there. I've never met whoever's listening to this, but you can call me. And my numbers are readily available. Just Google me and I will take your call. I'm an advocate of saving lives for people who don't want to kill themselves. Okay. So there's somebody out there that will help you and somebody that does care. That's first and foremost. You do not need to hurt yourself, kill yourself. There's somebody that will care about you and they will help you. Okay. But when you're in that space, the first step, man, has to be, why the hell do I want to do this? Right. You have to think about that. And my why was, I only had one stupid reason, and it wasn't that stupid. It was, I just didn't want my kids to see my head blown against a wall. And I know that sounds crude, and I know it sounds graphic because it is, and it's graphic on purpose. But you have to think about that, right? So maybe you're single, maybe you don't have kids, but you have to think, what am I going to do here? What's my purpose? And since that day, not only have I increased my life for myself, and I've done really well for myself, but I've helped tons of people. And I've helped people that I didn't even realize I helped. Like I had a call just 2 days ago with a guy and I didn't even remember working with him. And he told me, dude, you helped me so much through this problem, doing this thing. And it blew my business up. And now I have 10 clients when I only had 2 when I talked to you. And I had no idea that I did that. And that changed his life. And now he wants to partner up on, some new deal that we were talking about. But I've had so many people say that to me. And if I didn't pull myself up off that floor, there would be a lot of people's lives who weren't changed because of that. And I have, VAs that work for me now. I have sales guys that work for me now. And I just hired a new VA this morning. And the guy he was like, he had tears in his eyes, man, because when I hire these VAs, I don't just say, hey, I want you to work for me to help me make money. I say, what's your long-term goals? And he's like, oh, I want to start my own VA business. I want to have my own team. Right. And I said, hey, bro, I'm totally open to helping you do that. And he had tears in his eyes. He goes, look, man, first of all, I'm 28. I just want to provide for my 2 little babies. And it's just like, once you get into that realm, now I'm not just responsible for my success. I'm responsible for this guy who's my VA in feeding his kids, right? Because if my business doesn't produce money to need him to work for me, I can't, he's not going to feed his kids. So it becomes a bigger passion. And so once you find a why and it starts to grow inside you, I don't know if you ever saw that movie. If people saw the movie Inception. Inception is about planting an idea in a brain and it takes hold on you. It's a really cool movie if you haven't seen it. But once an idea takes hold in your brain, it's just amazing how it can just flourish and all kinds of good things can come to you once you start taking action on that, And once I had the idea, hey, I'm going to do digital marketing, and I just took action, things started magnetizing to me and things just took off from there. So I just recommend, man, just don't do it. Number one, reach out to people who may care about you. They could be a stranger, and just take action. And those things will really get you going in the right direction. It'll, create some momentum.
Yeah, I think really at the end of the day, having a why that's bigger than just yourself is really important in a lot of different ways. And that's a recurring thing with every single entrepreneur that I interview, talk to, is that, I think that's in a lot of different ways, both in terms of like why to keep moving forward, why to keep pushing when things get really hard. Why, I think the difference between most successful entrepreneurs that we have now, that almost all of the people that I've talked to, they all have like struggles along the way that most people would give up on, right? They encounter some sort of a wall that they have to run through that most people would back out of. And it's really that why, having that firm foundation of a why that's bigger than just being successful and having money, that it has allowed them to persevere. And so, yeah, I think that's a really good point, because you mentioned the same exact thing right there. So is there anything new that you're currently working on or launching, that like a new project of any sort that you're getting ready to roll out?
Yeah. So with the YouTube thing, I post a lot of my results on my personal Facebook page for the same reason I always did, because when I post things, people refer me and I get business. Organic marketing, man, it's still my number one way of getting clients. So since I've got really good at YouTube ads, I've been posting results of YouTube ads. People have asked for it. So I'm coming out with a personal injury attorney YouTube ads course. And
cool. Okay.
It's not just going to be YouTube ads. It's also going to be Facebook ads. And I'm going to find a way to do the Facebook portion, because And here's one of the keys to it too. So this is just another tip for people. The Hispanic market in the United States has been greatly underserved. I found anytime I completely run everything to the Hispanic market in their native language is key. So my wife is a native Spanish speaker, and what she did was she translated everything perfectly for me. So I can get leads at like literally a fraction of the cost if we go straight to the Spanish market. But the key is if you translate it perfectly in their language. If you use Google Translate, they'll think that you're a scammer and they won't believe you. So my new course is going to be a personal injury course. It's going to show how to do it with YouTube. It's going to show you how to do it with Facebook ads, and it's going to show you how to do everything, and even how to live transfer these things. So I'm really excited about it. It's probably going to be out within 2 months.
Okay, cool. And lastly, I know that you typically give a free gift to any listeners. So I wanted you to be able to just talk about that for a minute. What do you got for the listeners here on the podcast that want to learn more about you and get some tips from you?
Yes, so I got a couple free gifts. Since I sent you that info over, I decided to put a portion on my website just called free stuff. I forget what the link's called, but if you go to my website, theleadking.com, there's a big button right in the middle that says free resources. I believe that's what it is. And so the newest thing that I just made is a YouTube ads launch checklist. And so it's 5 things. And if you really do follow these 5 steps, you'll have a successful YouTube launch. So I got that. I have a Facebook ads course where you I teach a ton of info on how to run Facebook ads for real estate agents, and I also have an Instagram marketing course on there too. So yeah, I have a few free resources, and what I like to do, and just like we talked about before, man, is I like to give people a sample of what I can bring to them before they pay me money. I want them to feel
Sure.
comfortable working with me. Look, if this guy's going to give me this kind of quality with free stuff, imagine what I'll do if I pay him. And
Yeah.
I believe that mindset works for everybody. You know.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. Again, I think there was just so much to learn there in terms of like whatever industry you're in, just serve people, help them out. And as you do, it comes back to you. That's a recurring thing that I keep hearing over and over. So where's the best place for people to contact you? Over in general, is it best to reach out to you on your website? Are you pretty engaged with social media? Like if somebody wanted to reach you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, my website's a good place. But if you go to my website, the only way to really get in touch with me is to schedule a call with me. But if you want to, check me out or be friends with me, just go to Facebook, find Russ Ward. You'll see me there. And just friend request me. And I'm not guru level. I'm not anything like that, man. I'm really personable. If we have matching interests, I'm happy to talk shop with you. I love doing that. So and I promise along the way, no matter how big I get, I'm never going to be that guy. I'm always going to be a humble person because I came from humble beginnings and I understand how it is.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being on, and I look forward to connecting again. So thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on. Have a great weekend.
You too.